Alright, so for today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the NWS 9-inch combination pliers. I believe these are 225 millimeters in length, which would make it 9 or maybe a little bit over 9 inches in length. Now, from my understanding, these are quite hard to find with the insulated pliers. I believe they are specific to the Australian market. I'll kind of discuss how I got those over here in a little bit. But here they are. Now these, unlike some of the previous NWS pliers that I reviewed here on the channel, these have kind of that black oxide finish to them, whereas the other ones that I had kind of had that chrome finish to them. And these kind of had that black oxide finish with the matte finish, or like that matte coating on them. It's not shiny or anything. You can't see like the grind marks. It's definitely a little bit different of a look from the others that I looked at. Now, like I've said before with the NWS pliers, they generally have the yellow and the red for the 1000-volt insulated, but they also put a little bit of gray on there kind of to break that color up. And if you're unfamiliar with NWS pliers, like I've said in previous videos, on their comfort grip and their insulated pliers, you do have these two little hooks or nubs here on the bottom of the plier, and that is for a tether and a non-voltage electrical tester that clips onto the handle of the tool. Now, like most, if not almost all NWS products, these are made in Germany, so you're going to see that on quite a few different places, including on the handle. Now, the material on these handles, the yellow is kind of like a softer rubber, some softer rubber material, and the red is kind of like a harder plastic for the handles. And then you have these nubs here at the top is kind of like your, hey, you don't want your hand to go past this point on the plier, as in if you go a little bit further than that and you are working around and or on something that is live or hot, these are pretty much the stopping point for the pliers in your hand, and if you go below that, you're going to risk getting shocked. I kind of like, that's the one thing I like about the insulated pliers. Whether I have to use them for working on something hot or not, I just kind of like those nubs, especially when you have the pliers in your hand. That's just kind of where they want to stop in your hand instead of them sliding completely out of your hand. So that's one of the features that I do like on insulated pliers over a standard pair of pliers. And on this rivet, it looks like it's just kind of like an Allen key or a hex that they use to stamp this one out, which is a little bit different from the other two that we previously looked at, where it was like a Torx, I think it was like a T15 or a T10 Torx indentation on the rivet. This one kind of looks like a hex key on the rivet they use to stamp these out. Like I said in previous videos, you're not really going to be, there's nothing really you can tighten or loosen with that, since it's just a rivet on the back. You do also have a crimper, which I would assume would be for ferrules and or for some spades or just normal terminals. I'm not sure what they use really down there in Australia as far as wire terminals. Not sure if they use ferrules or if they use, you know, spade terminals, ring terminals, knife terminals, things like that that you tend to see here in the States. And then you kind of have this weird design. I believe these can also be used to ream pipe. Kind of think that's what these are for, but I could be mistaken. And then generally on a pair of combination pliers, you have those kind of those curved jaws, which are going to allow you to grab a bolt or a fastener to tighten, either to tighten or loosen it. So you can do that if you're trying to hold it on the backside and tighten that bolt or whatever down. And then on the back side you have a larger set, which is going to give you a lot more grip. Now the only problem, or at least I should say one of the problems that I've noticed kind of with this style, where you have the teeth and the cutting knives on the opposite side, is if you're tightening something down and you have a somewhat large fastener and you have you have that bolt, you're going to be able to go so far before you hit those cutting knives. So if you're trying to hold that nut down on the end, you're only going to be able to go so far with it to tighten it down before you start to hit those cutting knives there on the inside. Now these are a little bit different than just, a standard pair of combination pliers. Generally combination pliers, they have teeth that are all parallel to each other, but these guys have a cross-hatching design on them, or a cross-hatching nose on them. So when you are pulling on material, or you may be trying to pull a fish tape or whatever, that cross-hatching design is going to give you a lot more grip than just the teeth that are all parallel to each other. That's just one thing that I've noticed over the years of testing out all different kinds of pliers and using different pliers at work. I generally prefer a pair of pliers that has that cross hatching on them because I feel like you get a lot more grip when you're pulling on material. But that's pretty much it for the detail on these. We'll go ahead and get through some of the functionality on them. So we kind of already showed you how it worked with the bolt, so we'll stack that guy off to the side. And I guess we'll bring in some MC wire and see how well these guys can cut through these, see if we are able to do it with one hand. And we should be able to do it with one hand since these are a 9-inch pair of pliers. You have a pretty good amount of leverage when you're cutting through this MC. So if you I'm not sure if you guys down there in Australia use this MC or this non-metallic cable down there, but this is pretty much all we use in commercial construction here. So these guys are able to chomp through that without an issue. So I'll put those off to the side, and we'll bring in some ceiling grid wire. Generally here in the States, typically when you see guys hanging ceiling grid wires, they're using either a pair of diagonal cutters to cut them or a pair of alignment pliers. So why not? We'll go ahead and see if these combination pliers can go ahead and cut through the ceiling grid wire, and they do, and you have quite a bit of quite a bit of a loud snapping sound when you're cutting through it, but cuts through that wire without an issue. Now we'll bring in some smaller gauge wire, and we'll see how sharp those cutting knives really are. So this is some 12 gauge wire right here, and we'll see if I can do this on camera without struggling. I generally like to use a pair of pliers to strip some larger conductors. Mainly when I'm working with 10, 6, and 8 is when I like to use just a pair of, typically a pair of linesman pliers, or in this case, we're going to try a pair of combination pliers on some thicker wire here in a minute. But they are able to strip this number 12 stranded without any issue. And like I've said in previous videos, I'm pretty sure that NWS sharpens both cutting knives instead of just sharpening one and leaving the other one a little bit duller. So that's why you are able to cut through that insulation a lot easier than some of the other pliers we have tested here on the channel. So that was the 12 gauge stranded wire. We'll bring in some 10 gauge stranded wire and see how good we are with that. So go ahead and spin that guy around and pull off that insulation. And while we're at it, might as well see how well they work when you want to twist some wires. I know a lot of guys generally don't leave that little piece of insulation on them when they're twisting a wire before they connect it, but I have seen some guys go ahead and do it, so I might as well do it myself. And then you just pull it off and you have a nice little twist on there. So they had no problem cutting through this 10 gauge stranded wire, and they also have no problem stripping it. So, and then we'll go ahead and show those crosshatch teeth on there, kind of dig into that insulation so you don't slip off, which I've done many a times with just a standard pair of combination pliers that we've tested here on the channel. So overall, these are definitely, I would say, definitely a nice pair of pliers. Definitely not something common you're going to find here in the States with the insulated handles. Like I said, I believe the only place that these are really meant for is the Australian markets, and that is where I actually picked them up from. These guys came from Addicted to Tools, which is another fellow YouTuber. I ordered these from his website, so I not only got the pair of pliers, but you also get a few stickers that were thrown into the packaging. The price wasn't too bad on them. I think the shipping is what kind of might make it a little bit killer for some people. But it was actually fairly fast for the shipping to come over here. That I believe they were EMS or whatever that it kind of like international shipping is that a lot of countries tend to use, which is basically it ships to the post office. These actually came over, like I said, fairly fast. Pretty much ordered them, and they were here by the end of the week. I believe they shipped on a Monday, and they were here on a Friday. I did have to sign for them. That's one of the things that you are going to have to do is sign for it. So if you're not home for it and you're really expecting that pair of pliers that day, just keep that in mind. That you are going to have to sign for these at the post office. So you might have to wait another day to pick them up. But overall, they are fairly nice. At the time of filming this video, these were in stock when I checked, but that could change. I'm not sure if he's going to keep restocking them or what the deal is, but regardless, I'm going to see if I can find a link and put it down in the description below. If you want to learn some more information about these, probably head on over to the NWS website and see what we can find on these. And then I will also leave the link down to his website if you want to see if you can purchase a set for yourself. But with that being said, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching.